So kids that were getting bullied and they wore the trench coats and blah, blah, blah. Absolutely not.
So, I think this is an important book for people to read. Go ahead and take a second there. Dave Cullen is the author. It takes a lot of notes from people who are actually at Columbine and talks about the facts that were left out a lot of the media circuit. What people don't seem to realize is that Columbine sat at a crossroads of three mega evangelical churches at the end of the 90s, when the Satanic Panic was going big, and pretty much churches could say absolute lies on TV thanks to the Reagan administration, and people just took it as gospel. There was a common myth that nobody knew about Columbine, that these were kids in black trench coats and they just showed up and shot everybody up. And that's mostly because of the movie The Elephant, where that's the type of dramatization. And another thing, too, is that it was the church using basically their power of persuasion over the town to write the narrative of Columbine. Both of those boys were prolific writers. Columbine was planned for 2 years. It was an open-held secret and an inside joke among them and their peer groups. And they weren't social outcasts. They were both very well put together. They both had jobs. They both were really smart and had colleges and opportunities lined up. There really was no reason that they were trying to commit a genocide on these kids, besides the fact that they thought it was cool and they wanted to do so. And it was a super in-depth, thought-out plan that they had worked on for 2 years. Another point, too, is that because they were such prolific writers, there was 217 books, hundreds of audio recordings, and a bunch of other stuff cataloged in a basement with both these boys, where they talked about reworked plans, wrote down their personal feelings both for each other, combined books and private books. A lot of which, when Columbine happened, was taken by the police chief of the town and kept in a storage locker and not admitted to evidence. So we don't know what about that he actually destroyed and how much of it actually wrote about the consequences. And lo and fucking behold, since the church had complete control of the media narrative, they were allowed to push absolute bullshit. It was caused by doom, it was caused by violent video games, it was caused by degeneracy, it was caused by women wearing short skirts. Yeah, that was an actual point that they pushed. They basically wrote whatever they wanted to about Columbine, and it was taken as gospel. Let's also not forget that the church perpetuated a myth that one of those boys, I do believe it was Dylan, executioner style, shot a girl because she refused to say that God wasn't real. The church ran with that. The woman later recounted herself, and in that book, there are two versions. The more up-to-date version actually excludes her discussions because they found out how much of a liar she was that was promoted by the church. Columbine serves as the basis for how Americans view school shootings because it was the first major televised school shooting at actually a lowest point in the nation's history since the 60s for school shootings. The problem is the church has written the story and they got none of it right.